So I can't just think I can go ahead and buy stuff because I'm going to die
I'm
any
so
day now.
jealous of Clark Howard. Shut up.
Look, I'm cheap as fuck, but my wife goes out and spends the money like it's water.
I was watching the end of that Lakers game last night where they won in the last second on a shot by
the white guy.
By some guy. Oh yeah, and boy did LeBron explode. He was so pissed because it wasn't him. He hates that. He hates that. He is not a team player. I saw him just turn around and scowl. Did everybody see that? What do you think? I think we should do Fox SPN. That's how they would.
Right? Fox SPN.
Fox SPN. Right. Everything would be twisted. Every good story gets twisted and turned against a black guy. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not.
He's kneeling now.
Right. What about that dust he throws up in the air? How come you don't complain about that kind of pollution? What's up with that?
Yeah, that creates a carbon footprint well beyond anything.
Yeah. Why won't anybody talk about that?
Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to say anything about it. They're all afraid of LeBron.
I was working the Costco beat all morning today.
Working a cop. Yeah, like you're a cop. That's the greatest. Working a Costco. All right, I'm ready when you are.
Let me make sure that we're rocking and rolling. Because I may have been unable to concentrate enough to hit 2 buttons in a row. Slow. Yeah, it's my. I just didn't do it. Hang on. Now we're cooking with propane.
All right.
I just see everything needs to be
specific.
Okay, you ready?
Ready.
It's the Brad and Britt cast. It is our last one for this week, and next week, feel free to plan a vacation. We will not be doing the Brad and Britt cast.
No, not for us.
We're going to take a week for some R&R.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. So we'll be back, the following Monday. And looking at my calendar, and I do have a calendar in here. It would be like the 27th, right?
27th is what we're looking at.
27th. Okay. All right. With that in mind, I'll tell you what. I got some good shit. If you want me to roll some out, and you can pick some. And by the way, there are no bad choices here. None.
Oh, good. Okay, let's see what you got.
All right. This Jordan isn't GOAT. He's wote, the worst of all time. Follow the Fauci, and you might get back to Kansas. Just when you thought the Theranos Elizabeth Holmes scam couldn't get any worse.
Jeez.
Urban Meyer on how to make friends and influence people, or the worst possible slogans in American political history. It was just one, and then it was two last week out of the Republican Party, and this one got by you, and it got by me, and I didn't notice it until yesterday. So again, all those are great. Jordan, follow the Fauci, Elizabeth Holmes, Theranos scam, taking it to a new level. Urban Meyer, great guy, available. Raiders need a coach. Yeah. He's a proven winner. Hey, by the way, think of this. We lasted way longer at WVP.
That's true.
Than Urban Meyer did. He got canned before one season.
Well, we might as well
for 2 full years.
We might as well start there. Urban Meyer, the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, for 13 games. It's all he got, plus the 2 preseason ones in which he apparently kicked a player for not hitting their field goals. It was announced a little bit after midnight that Shad Khan, the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, decided that's going to be quite enough of you, Urban. $12 million a year, Brad, and he is still owed, if the contract is paid out to its fullest, $108 million. Of course, the lawyers will now get involved, and it will be a for cause. No, why don't you give us 70? No, we thought we'd give you 30. And then they'll start dickering back and forth. He'll have enough for gum when it's all over. But a complete embarrassment and a total disaster in less than one season in Jacksonville.
But I think it is important just to get the one delightful detail on what apparently was the straw that broke the Jaguars' back. A kicker who used to be on the Jaguars, I guess they already had cut him, named Josh Lambo.
That's the guy.
Said that during practice, quote, I was in a lunge position, left leg forward, right leg back, got it? While I'm in that stretch position, Urban Meyer comes up to me and says, hey, dipshit, make your fucking kicks. And then he kicks him in the leg. And I'm thinking, what's the big deal? Isn't that how you do coaching?
Sure.
How could you be mad at that?
Here in 1962, that's how you do coaching.
Yeah. By the way, the best part is that he kicks a kicker in the leg, okay? It wasn't even like a defensive lineman who, again, it would be inexcusable also. But you go after the part of the body.
That's correct.
Right. It's like going up to a world-class pianist and taking a hammer and slamming his fingers.
Sure, that's what you do.
You couldn't hit him, on the shoulder. You couldn't hit him. No, I went for his fingers. So Urban Meyer is a very, very sick man. We're gonna for one second. I'm going to say he is mentally ill.
You think so?
He needs help. Absolutely, he does need help.
All right.
And that doesn't mean I feel sorry for him. That doesn't mean that he's a victim. It doesn't mean, but he is clearly a sick man, because once you start to add up in his past some of the other things that he has done, which in the world of who from Florida and New Jersey, the twice impeached former, as long as you win, they'll tolerate. But once you start losing, then no, just no. And what was he, 2-13 or something like that?
2-13. A couple of points about this. There have been some very convenient illnesses in his past that have helped him leave places too. So those I think have to be examined as well.
Britt, that just he is
exactly.
He is a conniving, non-empathetic,
so
weird, angry, horrible person. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. And
I guess if you want to go all the way, what were you thinking when you hired him, Mr. Khan? Down, did you think that you were going to be the one? This is like I finally found I can reform him. He, if I date him, he'll be good to me. We'll get married. We'll have beautiful children.
He's a bad boy. I can fix him
that way.
When the Jaguars came into this league in the early 90s with the Panthers, they were owned and brought into the league by a guy named Wayne Weaver, who was a big shoe guy. I think he was the Shoe Show or one of those big places. And the owners were like, oh my God, we have to have this guy as part of our ownership. Ever since the Khans have taken over, and I think it's been 20 years now, the franchise has been just a raging disaster. It's been dumpster fire after dumpster fire after dumpster fire. I would contend to you, and I looked this up, the original problem with Urban Meyer, which started really even before the season started, but on October the 2nd is when those pictures came out of him at the club with the woman and so on and so forth. What happened 6 days after that, Brad? That was when the John Gruden stuff started coming out. So all of a sudden, the attention was diverted from this shit show here to this shit show here, at least nationally. So I think that bought him a couple of months. He probably should have been fired back in October.
Yeah, I think this would have happened anyway. But
yes.
You're right. It's always interesting, but you can't think that had anything to do with anything. But he, his history. And when he was of course, he won a couple championships at the University of Michigan. As the coach.
I don't believe that's where he coached at all. I think he was at the Ohio State University, I believe, is where he coached football. Right. That's cute, though.
Right.
Don't you? I mean, it seems like extreme narcissism. I hope he does not become like anti-woke America's favorite coach now, because I think they should kick players. Kicking players is the greatest thing of all time.
I tell you what, as always,
in
doing the massive amount of research on this subject, I wanted to check for sure if he had any relationship to Trump.
Right.
And it appears not really. It looks like that in 2016, during the campaign, and remember how many times Trump has done this, where he will just pick a name that's popular at the moment wherever he might be speaking,
right, and
use it and lie about it. And he said back then that Urban Meyer has said some nice things about me.
He's my friend.
Right. And there's no real evidence that Urban Meyer was a Trumper or anything of the sort. I just wish it were true. Okay. That's one of those things. I can't prove it, and I don't even think it's true, but I just wish it were true. It would be helpful. But he kind of stands on his own as a creep. Now, this is the real question. Will he ever get another coaching job again? Is this but he can always go back to college. Really? He can, what college? And I know that's a stupid question. There is mercenary worse in many cases than the NFL ever is. And I understand that. But isn't there something that makes you unemployable like this? He's not a losing college coach. We know he's a winner at that level. There's a lot of guys that have come to the NFL and failed. He's not the first one. He won't be the last.
Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a guy.
I believe we have one 90 miles down the road right now.
Well, that's true. That happened. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. That's happening.
In real time. No, I just don't know. Like, of all the open jobs that are happening and all that stuff that's been filled, I don't know anybody standing up at like one of the big, huge, massive jobs and going, that guy, we need him. I don't know.
It's not going to be that way. It's going to be a surprise. It's going to be a surprise if it happens. It's not going to be there's not going to be a public courting, because the minute his name leaks out publicly that he's talking to University of X, the outcry will be just deafening. So it would be, they're just going to spring him on the public if he gets hired somewhere. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Don't you want your kid to come to UCLA or whatever and get kicked by Urban Meyer? Is that going to be the selling point? You can get kicked by one of the great coaches of all time. Here he is.
Yeah. What about when Bobby Knight threw that chair? You didn't say anything about that. What about that?
What about Woody Hayes hit that guy? What about that?
when he beat that guy up, that guy was bloody. He never walked again. He was a cripple after that. How come you didn't say nothing about that?
All right. Story number one is going to be, this Jordan is not the GOAT. He's the WOAT, the worst of all time. Let's go with that one.
All right. There you go. All right, how about follow the Fauci, and you might get back to Kansas. Just when you thought that the Theranos Elizabeth Holmes scam couldn't get any stupider, it just did. Or the worst possible slogans in American political history right now by your favorite party, the party formerly known as the Republicans.
Let's do the that Jordan story. This Jordan is not the GOAT. He is the WOAT.
No, we just did it.
Oh, that was it?
No, I'm sorry. I crossed it up. I'm sorry. That was the wrong story. My fault. My mistake.
Try to pay attention.
We're talking about Jim Jordan.
Jim
Jordan, the worst of all time, because it was naturally revealed, not surprisingly, that he was the one that wrote one of the most notorious texts that we've seen so far, and he is, and I will cede the floor to you when I tell you, if you don't know, what his quote excuse is for what he texted. Okay, he's the one that texted the thing that I'm looking at a page that is fucking blocking me now, and I can't read it.
The text message from Jordan to Meadows, released by committee on Monday, read, on January the 6th, 2021, Vice President Mike Pence, as President of the Senate, should call out all electoral votes that he believes are unconstitutional as no electoral votes at all. Jordan's office said the shortened version misrepresented the content of the text with an inadvertently placed period. The January 6th committee acknowledged.
Wait. Do you know what the rest of it is? He tries to pin it on Alexander Hamilton in the Federalist Papers. I swear to God. So
in all accordance with the guidance.
Of course, Alexander Hamilton didn't say that about elections. So he's lying about the fact that you think you were taken out of context, Jordan. No, it's actually worse when you see the whole thing. But here's the worst part. He's saying he didn't write it. He was just passing along the text. It's kind of like, I didn't tweet it, I retweeted it. So therefore, I'm not responsible for it. So if I send you a text, Britt, that it says, here's the formula for a nuclear bomb, and it's a good one, and you send that text to somebody, you're not responsible for sending the text to somebody who actually might know how to make a bomb, because you just sent on my text, right? Isn't that how it works?
And the rest of it reads, in accordance with guidance from founding father Alexander Hamilton and judicial precedents, no legislative act, wrote Alexander Hamilton in Federalist number 78, contrary to the Constitution, can be valid. The court in Hubbard versus Lowe reinforced this truth, that an unconstitutional statute is not a law at all, is a proposition no longer open to discussion. Following this rationale, an unconstitutionally appointed elector, like an unconstitutionally enacted statute, is no elector at all. That was the whole thing that was truncated, apparently.
He's full of shit. He's full of shit. Now, well, since we're going to go, we need to go as low as we can because we're talking about Jordan. I was sitting there with Jane last night, and we were watching this story, and she goes, is he even a lawyer? And I said, well, I don't know. Let me make sure. And it turns out, you ready? Jim Jordan did graduate from law school.
Okay.
But he never took the bar exam. Okay. So now he's, but even better, he went to Capital University Law School. All right. I don't know whether Capital is a tier 3, tier 4, or tier 7 law school, but it is. Okay. Because there's, for instance, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, and you want to go to a top tier law school, there's a big one where Urban Meyer used to coach football, okay? If you go to Capital, it means you really got shitty grades or a shitty LSAT score, and you're just trying to get into law school. And you know what? You might go through there, come out, and be a great lawyer. It's possible.
We'll never know.
If you're Jim Jordan and you're a piece of shit and you go to law school at a third-tier law school and you don't even bother to take the bar exam, what the hell were you wasting your time for? What were you doing? Well, we know what you were doing. You were, probably figuring out how to learn how to cover up the bullshit that you might be doing later in your life, like as a wrestling coach.
Right.
That's right. The school that has the law school that you weren't smart enough to get into, Ohio State. And now, as you are part of the plot to overthrow the United States. But and by the way, just I know this is of great interest to you. I lived within walking distance. I mean, like 90 seconds from Capital University when I was a kid, on a street in Columbus. It's on the east side of Columbus, a little town called Bexley, and that's where Capital is. It's a beautiful little area.
I've never heard of it. I've never in my life heard of that place.
Capital University. Check her out.
It's terrible. It's a private university in Columbus, Ohio. It says it's a place you should never go. Bexley, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Capital was founded as the Theological Seminary of the Evangelical Lutheran Synod of Ohio in 1830.
I remember that. I remember when it was founded. I was there.
You're right. You're right on time. Here's your. I
think that the Democrats have finally figured out that much of this is not only the content of the outrage, of the disgrace, of the plot, and I think the word conspiracy now really applies here. We talk about conspiracy theories that are just stupid. They're just listening to conspiracy theories about that. No, this is a real conspiracy theory because it's made up. And I think the technical explanation of a conspiracy is when I don't know whether it's two, it might be more than two. I think it's when two or more people are communicating an idea that, if put into motion, would be a violation of the law. And there are all kinds of laws that apply to conspiracies, but we're at the federal level here, and we're talking about overturning the government, so I don't know what applies. But Jim Jordan, his name has now come out. We know, and again, you get your conspiracy bingo card on overthrowing the government, and we said it yesterday before we knew it was Jordan, that his picture was going to be in the center space. Turns out we were accidentally right. And some of the other players, and if the Democrats are smart, and they appear to be getting a little bit smarter right now about this, they will be revealing these names, not all at once, but one at a time. Gives you a chance to let each one marinate and for you to understand what you're hearing. And it just feels like the gas pedal has been pushed down a little bit on this.
It is. It's death by 1,000 cuts, or Chinese water torture, whatever you call it, as they drip this shit out. And I think that's probably the smart way to do it, is that all of these Republicans that have been bitching, and all of a sudden, well, we got you. Oh, okay. And then the next day we got you, and then we got you, and here's another text that you sent. So yeah, I think it's probably a good way to go, because eventually there are a lot of people that are sweating this. They know that eventually they're going to get around to their text, their completely inappropriate, fucked up text that they sent on January the 6th, begging Mark Meadows to get Donald Trump to stop.
Are we going to have a series of subpoenas served to people like Jim Jordan?
I hope so.
A member of the House of Representatives ordered to appear in front of a panel of his colleagues in the House of Representatives. And then when he, on, of course, orders from Trump, refuses the subpoena, will he just get charged just like Mark Meadows has been, and just like Bannon has been? I would think so. I think you got to go all the way. You've got to go until these people just crack, until they completely crack. And I did see somebody asking the question in capital letters, where's Ivanka? Okay. It's very strange. Her name isn't coming up at all. And she was there. She was.
Executive privilege.
Yeah, there is executive privilege.
Executive privilege. She was a very special advisor to the president. I don't want you to bring her name into this.
Yeah.
Follow the Fauci. Let's go to our next story, which is follow the Fauci.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to you a few minutes ago before we got started that I was on a full-fledged Costco run on Thursday morning. And at least in our part of the world here in North Carolina, I judge the panic level by what percentage of people are wearing masks in a Costco, which is, this is not a disparaging remark. I'm not making it this way. Costco is not Walmart. It's a slightly better heeled crowd, but not that, but enough.
Yeah.
And Costco had more stringent rules on wearing masks a long time ago before it was government policy. And now they've, for the most part, let up. And I would say today, 50 to 60% of people were still wearing masks, which sounds terrible. But apparently, compared to much of the country, much of the we're done with the virus, fuck you, we're living our lives. What virus? What are you talking about? I want my freedom. Fuck it, I didn't get it. What's the big deal? Or if I did get it, I didn't know it, and I'm immune. And if I didn't get a shot, fuck you. That part of America, we don't appear to be living quite in that radical of a rejectionist part of the United States, but we got some of it, and it is going to help fuel the spread of the Omicron version of the virus, which is clearly much more contagious, and it's growing exponentially, and it's doubling, or however the numbers are terrible. Fauci is back to being that Fauci again, that nanny again, warning us that it's going to be a really bad winter. And if people are just determined to pretend that it's all over, you are setting up your fellow citizens who work in the medical field in hospitals for more hell than they've ever experienced. And that sounds pretty bad because they've already experienced almost 2 years of hell, and that's all across the country. And it's rolling pain. And I mean, we're just, I understand the charge that, well, because the government has been so inconsistent in its messaging, therefore. Well, you know what? That's not enough of an excuse for me. Since when are the people who always complain that government can't do anything right, since when are they taking orders from the people who they say can't do anything right, and they can't think for themselves correctly if they're somehow confused by the fact that, 2 months ago, it was 2 shots and you were fully vaccinated. Now it's clearly 3, but government policy, the NIH, hasn't said officially 3, so that's an excuse. I'm not getting my 3rd yet. What's wrong with you? What are you thinking? Because I don't know about you, Britt. I'm thinking about, when the calendar keeps moving along, when am I going to get my 4th? I'm ready. I'm ready as soon as they say. And I'm ready for them to now say that it shouldn't be 6 months since your last shot, if it was your 2nd shot or your Johnson & Johnson first shot. It may be 3 or 4 months, because
I'm in line. And call me a sheep. Call me a sheep if you want to. Call me a tool of the. I'm a tool of the government. I'm a tool of the. I'm just a slave to whatever. This is a great article that Bloomberg published. Drew Armstrong is the main author of this one. Unvaccinated COVID patients push hospital systems past the brink. This is in Kentucky, and this is actually, he went to the hospitals there before all of the tornado stuff hit, and it's just, as you can imagine, some of these are in very rural areas where the vaccination rates are well below 50%. And the workers there are just beyond. Mental health and stress are at an all-time high. You have people that have been quitting at a record rate. You can't recruit enough people to hire them. The people that they have are being worked to death. It's just people. I don't know if this message is getting out to the public enough. I don't know if it's penetrating, Brad.
Well, see, Britt, I hate to correct you and speak down to you, but you clearly don't get the point here, because if it wasn't for these government mandates telling people who work in our medical systems to get vaccinated, we'd have plenty of people. The real problem is this autocratic ordering of people to allow their bodies to be violated by an unproven vaccine that has not been tested.
You don't even
against
believe
their will, when they want to serve their communities and so they are quitting, and that's why these hospitals don't have enough people. Don't you know that? Don't you? And by the way, what I just said is what they are saying.
Of course,
you do realize that. You
of
do
course,
know that.
That's exactly right.
And then they'll point to that one hospital in upstate New York where there were really a striking number of people who were unvaccinated, and they got fired. So, how long ago did we say on this Brad and Britt cast that we were pretty sure that when the death count hit 1 million, that it wouldn't make one bit of difference? Yeah. And this would be an interesting little test right now. This would be equivalent to when they walk down the street and show the picture of some political candidate. Nobody knows who it is, right?
Right.
Or right now they could, pick a famous national figure that we know easily. That if you walk down the street with a picture of Pete Buttigieg now, who hasn't been how many people would know who he is? But how about this? Ask people without any prompting, how many people have died in the United States? Documented people have died from coronavirus. What do you think most people would say? I'll bet they have no idea that we're already past 800,000, that we're 80% to 1 million.
I don't know.
Right. And as we all know, whatever number is the official number, there are probably lots of people who did die, either never having been treated or having it trigger other things that killed them, particularly older people. But I'll bet you 75% of people in this country couldn't come within 500,000 of the 800,000 number. What do you think?
I'm afraid you're right about that. I'm afraid I would not take the under on it.
Right. And by the way, not that matters.
No.
Right.
But it matters to an extent because so many
it matters, but it wouldn't matter to them. It would not matter.
It matters to the extent that people have turned it off. That's the problem, is that people have turned it off, and they do have their guards completely down in many cases, and they're not wearing the masks that they should. All of that stuff is happening. Yeah, that's what the issue is. Not that they can't come up with the exact number or whatever, but that they're tuned out to all of this right now. That's the issue.
Maybe if the NFL has to shut down or the NBA has to shut down again, it'll get a little bit of attention, but that probably won't mean anything either. It will not occur to the unvaccinated, the recalcitrant, the know-nothings, that the NBA as a physical example of humanity. These are fit, super fit people in their 20s and 30s. Okay. Mm-hmm. So they don't die from it because most of them, almost all of them are vaccinated, and they're going to recover from it. But that's not you.
No.
And that's not me.
No.
That's not most of us. And if you're willing to take that chance, and we're so far past now where we were a year and a half ago, where at least there seemed to be some kind of general agreement, not with everyone, that the reason to wear a mask would be to protect other people and yourself. And I get that we have to do whatever we can to slow this. All right, I'll wear them. Okay, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. We're so far past that moment now. Now, the mask is truly a symbol of government oppression, and government oppression only. Because somebody somewhere got coronavirus who was wearing a mask, so therefore none of them work. It's like somebody died in a car where they were wearing their seatbelt, therefore no seatbelts.
Don't ever wear a seatbelt, right? Yeah.
Right?
And disable your airbags too while you're at
it. Just do it.
Because you're a tool of big government if you have an airbag that works in your car.
Right. You caved into that one. You caved.
Give me
into
the
that.
Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos story. This has been quite the cause celeb. There's a couple of documentaries.
Did you listen to any
this.
podcasts about this or read that much about it?
I've seen documentaries about the whole situation.
That works. So you know who she is. She's
sure.
She's another Stanford dropout who didn't found Facebook. Okay,
an absolute fraud.
Right. She's a fraud. She's the Urban Meyer of. Wait, I take that back. Urban Meyer did win.
Okay. He did. Yeah. He was real.
She's never really won. She's a scamster. She's a liar.
If you don't know the company, she supposedly had this thing where you can get a drop of blood from somebody's finger and get the same results as you could from drawing blood from somebody's arm. And it turned out to be completely fraudulent. And now she's in court being sued for a lot of money for fraud.
Right. But Britt, remember when you and I invented a machine called the Fartorama? You could, if you fart.
See, you laugh at this, but you know Al Franken really wrote a sketch about examining stuff and finding out medical stuff from farts. You know he really truly did that back in the 80s.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
He did. He wrote that sketch and it became stuff of legend. It never made it to air, but Tina Fey would bring it back on her show as the fart machine thing on 30 Rock. But yes, he actually did, where you would examine somebody based on their farts and you could tell them if they have high cholesterol or whatever.
Right. Okay. So she's a liar and a fraud on the level of Bernie Madoff. We never thought we'd see the likes of him again, but in effect, we really did, but just in a different form and with a lot fewer people and with nobody whose lives were completely destroyed by the amount of money that she swindled out of them, whether it was Henry Kissinger or former Secretary of State George Shultz or Rupert Murdoch or people. She swindled all these people into investing hundreds of thousands of dollars into this phony company. So she's on trial now, and I think the jury is going to get the case today, which is Thursday. And now she pulled out the ultimate card from the bottom of the deck a few weeks ago and said the only reason that she did this because she's abused and she was in an abusive relationship.
Oh my God!
And the man, right, she pulled that shit.
Oh my God!
Okay? Right, as if. No matter how abusive the relationship was, let's say that it was. Let's say this guy, Sonny Bawami, whose real first name was Ramesh, but he's Sonny. It's kind of like calling for help, for your computer. You always talk to Sonny. Am I in trouble? Am I in trouble for that?
Oh, you're so bigoted. It's the most racist thing I've ever heard in my entire life.
So let's say Sonny did. That still is no explanation for the deliberate scams and schemes and lies and forgeries and manipulation and threats that you were leveling for the few years that this thing was flying over the clouds and raking in money with no real results. You were just faking it. But here we go. We've got a guy named Mark Ostrovsky who put in $150,000. And he says he plans to sell, you ready? His stock certificate in Theranos as an NFT, a non-fungible token.
Oh my God.
That someone will want to buy this. You get the physical stock certificate, you get the paper, and you get the digital version, which I guess gives you the right to have it forever in perpetuity. And it's worthless even on its own face. And he thinks that someone will pay. You know what? If someone's willing to pay $150,000 or more for that, have at it. If you're that go for it.
Well, aren't you going to use the argument you have too much money? If you have $150,000 to spend on that shit, you have too much money.
Well, that just goes without saying. But
yeah, sure.
But wouldn't the only reason that you would ever buy something like this, and I truly can't get the full concept of these non-fungible tokens. I don't really understand it. I'm not pretending that I do. But no matter what you invest in, you usually always do it in the hopes that at some point down the road, there will be a bigger idiot willing to pay you more money than you paid for it. So he's assuming that there is someone out there right now who wants to cough up the 150, and that person would buy it only under the assumption that they would be able to turn around at some point, right, and sell it, unless this is just a charitable thing to bail this jerk out.
Well, you do. I mean, you understand to the effect that this is supposedly the art of the future, that the Picassos and the Van Goghs of the future are going to be on a tablet on your wall. That you can that's essentially what it is, and it belongs only to you. I don't understand how it's not easily, duplicated, but apparently
Well,
the signature
point. That's what doesn't make any sense.
The signature code of it is such that you know that you have the original and nobody else can rip it off. Allegedly. I don't know. But apparently
did you leave out a word? You have the original copy of the original, which it's past me.
I don't see it. I don't understand it. I don't understand crypto. I mean, I understand it to an extent, but again, these things don't make any sense to me, so I don't play in that into the pool. That's just not what I do. But yeah, if you're buying this, I mean, it's a piece of history, but it's a piece of stupid history. Sure. I mean, this should probably be displayed in physical form in the Smithsonian or something, as this was a horrible person
there either.
This is a horrible person who ripped off a lot of people who thought they were really smart. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what you get out of spending 150 grand on something that's so fraudulent. Like, oh, I have a piece of Enron furniture from their headquarters. It's right there in my living room. You want to see it? It's an Enron chair that Kenneth Lay actually sat in. I mean, it is beyond stupid that somebody would have $150,000 sitting around and think that would be a great thing to spend it on.
Yep.
Any charity, dude. We just had entire towns leveled in fucking Kentucky. How about just throwing a couple of bucks that way? I'm just saying. I mean, I'm not being a do-gooder. I'm not virtue signaling, but Jesus Christ, if you can't figure out what to do with 150 grand better than that, you're failing.
All right, worst slogans in U.S. history.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this.
And again, these are ones that, at least the first one, it got by me last week. Maybe you heard it last week, but we certainly didn't talk about it. Toddler takeover.
Oh, boy.
Have you heard this?
No.
The Republicans stood in the well of the Senate last week, and you know how they'll have behind them a giant easel with a big cardboard thing.
2 words.
And
so their people can understand, because it can't be more than like 2-syllable words either.
Right. Toddler takeover. You're right. All of Trump's slogans are 3 words.
That's right.
This one was 2. And
what does it refer to? What are they talking about?
Well, isn't that wonderful that you have to ask the question?
Yeah,
Doesn't that mean that it sucks? Okay. Here's what it has to do with. It has to do with the fact that a lot of the spending that would be done in the legislation that is bottled up right now by Joe Manchin and unable to get through the Senate because they're never going to get the 60 votes. It's too much money for little kids, for little toddlers. But the phrase toddler takeover,
it's so bad.
which, by the way, remember, I had to explain that, and it still is stupid, isn't it?
It's still stupid.
Right. But the phrase toddler takeover is kind of a pejorative among parents who never use that. I never recall.
Nobody in history's ever heard of this. I don't. What is that?
Yes, but the truth. But of course, when you have a child, very often, you have to spend a disproportionate amount of your entire life.
Yeah.
So that's a toddler takeover, and I think it's insulting in about 150 ways. It's another one of those. What, don't Republicans have children? Have they never had a toddler?
No, they don't.
Or does it really apply in an intelligent way to slamming the Democrats for daring to want to spend money on the future, which, sorry, they're toddlers right now. We want to spend money on them. And you know what? You don't have to spend so much money on me. I'm 66. What are you going to do for me now? Okay, sure, I don't even get Social Security yet. Fuck it. I'll get it when I'm 70. Fuck it. But But the idea that you would be so crass as to think.
See, when you said it, let me tell you what I thought when I heard when you said it. I thought they were talking about like the Democrats acting like babies. I thought they were acting like AOC and her people, and that's what they meant by toddler takeover. It's so stupid. Now, this gives me hope, but this gives me hope for 2022. If their messaging is going to be this piss poor, the Democrats might have a shot. If this is going to be this stupid ass messaging from the Republican Party.
But here's the point. I can't tell you that wasn't part of the thought process behind toddler takeover, what you just said. I don't know that.
It's so stupid. All they have to do, I hate to give them ideas because I know they're listening. All they have to do is push that stupid ass parental bill of rights. If they push that, which means nothing and it's complete horseshit and it's social stuff, all they have to do is push that and they can glide to victory very easily in 2022.
Well, that would prevent a toddler takeover, wouldn't it?
that whole thing.
All right, you ready for
if they're going to trip over their own dicks like this, then the Democrats have a serious shot next year.
Ready for the second
I'm ready.
Worst slogan ever? And this one popped out. Here we go. Critical energy theory. Critical energy theory.
These people are terrible.
This one comes from the American Legislative Exchange Council, the people who basically are the worst human beings in America. They plot and they distribute to states all of the terrible things that get put into legislation, whether it's about energy or abortion or voting rights or these are the people in what is an informal think tank all over the country. There are a lot of people that are in our state who are part of this. Here we go. And by the way, this is of course originally funded by the Koch brothers. Now a Koch brother, one died, the idea of calling something critical energy theory. Critical energy theory is an attempt to call out financial institutions, big banks, big investors, big money, venture capital that now doesn't feel that fossil fuels are the energy of the future. It's kind of like when we work for Don Curtis, okay? Don Curtis thinks that AM radio is the radio of the future, okay? So what does he do? The guy's still buying AM radio stations. Republicans think that fossil fuels, that oil and natural gas are the energy of the future. Critical energy theory is the theory that you have to call out all the big money suppliers for companies in the energy industry, the drillers who now can't get capital because money is now going towards renewables, towards solar, towards all kinds of things. So this is the right wing pushback, and they call it critical energy theory. Now, this actually opens the door because everything can now use the critical blank theory. You can have critical regulation theory. You can have critical entitlement theory, right?
What about critical bullshit theory? What about that?
What about critical war on Christmas theory?
God.
Because once they grab onto something, right, it never stops. They think they've got something there. And they think that critical race theory is such a big hit that they've now officially gone with critical energy theory and the rest of them. So which do you think, and you have to pick one, which is worse? Toddler takeover or critical energy theory? Give us a call.
I'm gonna go with toddler takeover, just out of takeover.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody enjoy your Christmas if that's what you're doing and all your traveling and stuff. We will see you back here 1 week from Monday. 1 week from Monday.
Or as we used to say in radio, Bunday.
I don't think we ever said